Well, here we are. We're back.
We are back.
We are back, and it is Monday Night Live.
Yes, the best night of the week.
The lovely Kate Simmons. I'm Dean Nixon. It is wonderful to join you here in St. George, Utah, with TurningLeaf Health and Wellness.
Can I share with you something fun that happened over the weekend?
Absolutely.
Well, first and foremost, we had our Level 1 Awakening seminar this weekend, which was super fun. And on the third day, I was sharing with the participants some of the different ways to stay connected and letting them know about Night Live. And one of the gals going through the seminar said, the best night of the week. And my little heart just blossomed because I feel like your line is so alive. It's so powerful, right? It's the best night of the week.
But yours is popular.
Apparently.
That's what we're pointing out.
I'll get some hearts over here.
We're
Thank you.
We're pointing it out. So
It just was super fun for
It
me.
is
Thank
fun.
you for letting me share.
I think it's awesome. I think that's fantastic. So we are excited to join you tonight as we get going. We did have an amazing level one. We just finished up, wrapped up on Saturday. We had a group of participants that went through, and you'll probably see some of the posts and information about that coming up. Our next level one will be, I think, in October, if I remember correctly. So we got a little bit of a break this time between. So those of you that are ready and wanting to move forward and take that next leap, I encourage you to do so.
Yeah. So you can call us to get registered at 652-1202. DM us on whichever platform you're watching. We get those messages as well. But yeah, we'd love to have you. Always.
Always excited. Well, as we jump into tonight's topic, as always, we just want to remind you that these topics are, we encourage you to take these topics to create communication in your life. There are individuals in your life that are in need of being able to share their thoughts, feelings, and opinions with you. Also, for you to learn about them and to understand their perception, their views of life that help us kind of grow together, which kind of leads into the topic.
Perfect segue into the topic.
Segue into the topic for tonight.
Yes. So what we wanted to bring to you today to have a conversation about is really the word divisiveness, isn't it, Dean? Like if we could boil it down to one word, to be divided or divisiveness, and how we in our life can overcome that and work to create cohesiveness or connection.
Yes, it is. We are in such a situation right now where our country, our world globally, we have so many challenges coming at us on a regular basis. And it just seems like information overload almost. And we've had this, and we talked a little bit about this in our, I think, live last week about the information overload and how it's adding to our stress levels and anxiety, et cetera. And also how, I think it was a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how in a lot of ways we've lost our ability to verbalize our thoughts and feelings.
Right.
And so what I've been noticing a lot recently, especially in relationships, that are, as we're always working with personal, very close up front, marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend relationships. And we're really working to help people kind of come together. But we're also seeing a lot of isolation coming from the divisiveness that we're running into, where a lot of people are spending more time cutting people out of their lives because people have different views and opinions versus opening up dialogue and discussion and acceptance.
Right. And I think that it's such an interesting notion. And maybe it's because I'm always like too clinging to people, like the other end of this spectrum in my personal experience about being a human in life, right? But when I've come across people or run into people in my own life or heard of stories of people just like burning bridges, cutting people out, just uprooting because of differences of political stances, differences of religious or belief stances, differences of, you name it, right?
Situations that they disagree on how they happened, unraveled.
Any sort of theology or idea and just having a difference of opinion. And how it's just like, it's that cancel culture, right? That we've run into. And being able to just like, no, I'm going to delete you out of my existence and move on. Right. when the reality is that there could be a potentially incredibly rich and beautiful relationship that you're just tossing out of your existence because you have a difference of political view.
Yeah.
Or because you have a different view about how whatever your version of your higher power or God works in our world today. Right? Like to just negate it and be like, yeah, nope, I'm done. You're out. Really, you're robbing yourself, or we rob ourselves of something that could be very beautiful and deep and rich and a great teacher for us.
Yes.
When we do so.
Well, the part that's interesting to me about it is how much it becomes very isolatory, even when you're with people. And that's the funniest part about it to me is how much we are still isolating ourselves, even though we're opening ourselves up and showing up to family gatherings, et cetera, et cetera. The conversations are very gilded and very, very controlled. And we're trying to avoid erupting or offending or having contention, instead of finding a way to have a civil conversation about things without being offensive. And in a lot of ways, as you put it, there's this idea of just kind of cutting people off or shutting people down, which is far more offensive than the conversation itself, quite honestly. I think a lot of people are a lot more offended by being cut out of your life than they are by the dialogue where you may disagree. And that's the other part I think we've got to really focus on in our conversations is we've got to stop being so clingy, as you put it. I'm using it a different way. Clingy with that need to be right and that your opinion is the right opinion. And I think when people express their view and express their point of view, a lot of times we're quick to discount it, or quick to dismiss it, or we're quick to mock it or put it down or throw some type of information or statistic to prove that we're wrong. The one thing that I've learned through the years in dealing with humans is you can find statistics to back up any viewpoint you have.
Absolutely.
And if you don't believe me, just start Googling stuff and start having opinions on stuff, and then start Googling the counter to it. And there's going to be a ton of statistic to prove you're wrong, or a ton of statistic to prove that you're right. So instead of getting focused on all of those things, how about just a dialogue? How about just a conversation where people can open up, talk, share their thoughts and feelings, and we can not get offended by them. And I think you can say things without being offensive.
I would completely agree. And I'd love that you brought up just a moment ago, this notion of almost of emotional isolation. Right? To the point where we are terrified to lose the ones we love because we do maybe have a difference of opinion.
Right.
And so then it inhibits or it blocks people from being their authentic self and feeling safe enough to express the thoughts and feelings of their heart and where their understanding has led them to because of the hostility in our environment that we live in. And how, once again, I just feel so robbed, I guess, by all of the voices that we're not hearing and all of the ideas that aren't being expressed or spread in our own family units or opening it up to the community or our states or the world or whatever that looks like because of this fear of being shoved out of people's lives.
Right.
And the damage and destruction that can come about because of that.
Yeah. And I think that's the part that I want to encourage us the most to do. I think the solution to it that I really want to encourage us to start using and start looking at is getting better at communication, getting better at verbalizing your thoughts and feelings. And, my father always used the term, he said, son, if, you need to learn to use tact. And I always love telling this, my father said, tact is the ability to tell somebody to go to hell and make them look forward to the trip. And of course, that's actually very true in a lot of ways. I don't think we have to be offensive and tell somebody to go to hell. But I do think that we can verbalize our thoughts and opinions and feelings and still do it in a respectful, kind manner. I think where we run into trouble and where we become offensive to other people is when we talk as though we are right and they are wrong, or that their thoughts and feelings are negated or irrelevant or aren't important. But and that's where people tend to get offended. And as I listen to couples, for example, this is a great microcosm of who we are. When I listen to couples or families talk, a lot of times people get very hurt and offended because their partner is talking in terms of being very matter of fact. They talk as though their perception is the accurate and only perception.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they get offended because they interpret their partner as expressing their opinion as though their opinion is the only opinion that matters or is accurate. And so we have to find that fine balance between communicating and not communicating as though we are the authorities or our opinions are matter of fact because they're just opinions. But we also have to get better at listening, and not only listening to hear what people are saying, but listening to be beyond being offended. And that's one of the skills that I think we need to develop better as human beings, is listening to go beyond being offended just because somebody may not say something eloquently, or somebody may not say something or have the skills to speak eloquently. And I see that a lot in families where there are some family members that just don't have the gift of communication. Yeah. And as a consequence of that, they can be very, very offensive with that. And I have family members in my life that have said some things in family gatherings, and everybody just it's like a vacuum. It just sucks the air out of the room. Mm-hmm. And they say it towards me, and I just look at them person, and I think, does this person really want to offend me, or are they just having a hard time saying it in a way that's not offensive? Because ultimately I know they love me. Mm-hmm. So when they say it and I turn to and I look at them, I almost just kind of joke back a little bit to show them, hey, that came across a little bit inappropriate. Mm. And they usually will autocorrect. And they usually kind of backpedal and go, oh my gosh, because that's not their intention. Mm-hmm. But sometimes people just don't have that ability. So I think, in my opinion, speaking of opinion, we've got to get better at communicating, and we've got to get better at listening.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to push that listening just one step forward. And it's listening with the intent to not do so critically, right? Like just in a help me understand you sort of way. Something that we're all talking about around here is like, help me understand me, right? Yep. But a huge piece, especially in this communication area, in perspective, in point of view, in belief systems, and all the things that we can get to as far as talking about how sometimes this really gets kind of a lot of dissonance in our communication, is seeking to listen to understand them and to understand where they're coming from. I love that you brought up that sometimes people aren't that articulate, right?
Right.
Like not everybody has like this witty of a tongue that can just eloquently spit off whatever is their heart is feeling, and it can come across not even accurate for them and their authentic expression. And then you add all those layers of fear and not wanting to be judged and everything else, and it really starts to block the message.
Right.
Whereas if you can create a safe environment with your loved ones or people that you're around that has that ability to be able to seek to understand them, to just see them and hear them and get their view of it, regardless of if you think that it's in alignment with you. It's so funny how we do that, isn't it? That if it isn't if it's not the way that we see it, then it needs to be outrooted, right?
Right.
When really so many things can coexist at one time that aren't threatening to one another.
Right.
And your opinion isn't threatening to me if I look at it in that perspective of just being your opinion.
It's just an opinion.
And seeking to understand you because I love you, because I want to understand you better.
Right.
That piece really helps me in that listening avenue.
Yeah. And I think when we get into the space where we can truly start listening and not listening to be offended, but listen to what is the person really trying to say, it becomes very, very powerful on a lot of levels. The other piece I think we can do with it is that if we do hear something that feels offensive or does feel off, confront it.
Yeah.
That's another thing we have to get good at is is confronting in a respectful way and just say, hey, you know, it feels like you're saying this. Is that what you're trying to say? And clarify. If it is, then okay, then you understand that opinion and you can say, well, I appreciate that we vary in opinion, but the way you're saying it is offensive, and I you know, we can work through this. But I do think that when we don't confront it, then what I see us do is instead of confronting it directly, we confront it in a shaming, passive aggressive way. And this is what I'm seeing happen a lot in social media. I'll see a lot of people will just blast somebody that said something at a grocery store or did something, and they'll blast it on. So can you believe this happened type of thing. We've even gotten to this really, which is sad to me and breaks my heart in a lot of ways, is we're pushing this Karen culture now, which to me is just really sad.
I know, and I feel sad for everybody actually named Karen.
But I do believe that those of us that are participating in this Karen game, it's a right and wrong game. And you yourself are caught in a level of hurt and pain that you're not directing in a healthy way. And you've got to learn to express without shaming. And that's where I think the Karen culture is a shame culture. Yes. And this is just more of the same. It's just more of the same. And we're perpetuating a problem that we pretend like we're solving. We act like we're solving it by using the term Karen and Karen shaming people. But the reality is you're still participating in the shame culture. You're still participating in the divisive culture. And in a lot of ways, you're silencing people around you, and you're keeping people from being honest with you. If you want people to be honest with their thoughts and feelings around you, then you have to stop shaming people.
Yes, absolutely. And in that, how did you put it? Just barely. Not the Karen culture, right before that.
The shame culture?
Yeah, dang it. It just flew right outside of my head.
I wish I could read your mind.
I wish you could no, I don't.
No, I don't either. No.
But when in seeking to understand, there we go. Right. And asking clarifying questions, and getting into that space when something does tend to feel a little bit prickly, right? To just lean in a little bit and ask some, once again, not in criticism or like to come at them like, oh gosh, this is what you said, right? But something that you shared with me a long time ago, and I just wrote it on a card and I put it up. Maybe I think it was even in a seminars when you said it, but in those moments, really in the communication space, apply this tactic. Choose to see or hear the love in it, instead of choosing to hear and see the criticism, right? And then seeking to understand that more. Like, hey, this is what I heard. Was it even correct, right? And I love Brene Brown in one of her books talks about she got into an argument with her husband about something, and they came up with a new agreement because she kind of ran away in her imagination with it. And I think that happens to us a lot too. We'll have someone will express their opinion and we won't have the courage to try to lean in and understand. And instead we just walk away and allow our imagination to spin on it. But she made an agreement with her husband that was like, hey, the story I'm telling myself is this. This is what I heard. Is this correct? Right. And to come in that space, seeking to understand and looking at it from the lens instead of criticism, but in a space of, I'm going to choose to see the love in this, and I'm going to lean in and I'm going to love you, and I'm going to seek to understand what it is that you're trying to say with me. And once again, it's okay if I don't agree with you.
Yes.
I can still love you and disagree with you. Both of those things can happen at one time. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's a big part of family, and having a family and being a part of the family is that you're going to disagree with one another. And if you're surrounded by people that agree with you and everybody that thinks the same way you think, you're in a scary place.
Yes.
You know, you're not going to get real honest feedback about who you are and how you're showing up and how to move yourself forward. And it's kind of like a businessman, you know, surrounding himself with yes people.
Right.
And that businessman is not going to be successful in business very long. He needs to also have that voice of authenticity. He's got to have that voice where people come in and share the truth with him, even though it may be hard and painful for him to hear. And so we've got to do that same type of thing when it comes to listening and supporting people and encouraging people to be honest with us. But we can do it. You know, that's one of the things that we talk about in level 1 in one of the seminar processes, one of the experiences that we have. It's really about giving and talking to people in a way that they can hear you and feel safe. And maybe it's uncomfortable to hear the information, but you know where it's coming from, and you know it's coming from a love-based place. And being able to internalize and learn how to use that skill will change your game. It will change your relationships. It will change everything.
A to the men, and we are out of time.
Well, thank you again for everybody for tuning in. I think this is actually the week of our 3-year anniversary. There we go. 3 years of being live with you.
Holy moly.
Sharing topics. Thank you for liking and sharing our videos. Thank you for always commenting and communicating with us about them. Again, take these topics to the
water cooler
and to your family dinner tables. And also make sure that you like and share and comment and let us know if there's anything you'd like us to communicate about.
Yes, absolutely. We love you, and we will see you next Monday on Monday Night Live.
We'll see y'all.
Got it.
Well, here we are. We're back.